Okay, welcome to High Cheese with Darren Maloney. Today is April 18th, 2022. And what I want to do now is I want to go directly to a clip from Senator Chris Coons from Delaware. And he was on one of the Talking Head shows this weekend. I think it was Face the Nation. And he said something disturbing. I wasn't surprised, but it still was disturbing. And what he said is that we should contemplate, the United States should contemplate putting boots on the ground in Ukraine, essentially causing World War III. So I want to go right to this clip. And we've got to discuss this because we have to nip this in the bud. So let's go to the clip and then we'll discuss.
In some public remarks this week, you said the country needs to talk about when it might be willing to send troops to Ukraine. You said if the answer is never, then we are inviting another level of escalation and brutality by Putin.
Margaret, I think those of us in Congress who have a critical role in setting foreign policy and in advising the president in terms of his decisions as commander-in-chief need to look clearly at the level of brutality. This is a moment of enormous challenge for all of us. And I deeply respect President Biden's leadership in pulling together the West, in imposing crushing sanctions on Russia, and in bringing to this fight countries that had stayed on the sidelines before. But this is a critical moment. If Vladimir Putin, who has shown us how brutal he can be, is allowed to just continue to massacre civilians, to commit war crimes throughout Ukraine, without NATO, without the West coming more forcefully to his aid, I deeply worry that what's going to happen next is that we will see Ukraine turn into Syria. The American people cannot turn away from this tragedy in Ukraine. I think the history of the 21st century turns on how fiercely we defend freedom in Ukraine, and that Putin will only stop when we stop him. This is a weekend when so many families gather to celebrate the very best in the human spirit. And where we grieve the loss of many due to COVID, we should also be prayerful and mindful of those who are fighting for freedom in Ukraine and how much their heroism and patriotism inspires the rest of us.
Senator Coons, thank you.
And no, Chris Coons, we are not going to go to war. And I feel terrible about the Ukrainian people. But we're not going to put my friends and family in the war because you feel bad what's happening to the Ukrainian people. And I do too. But I am not willing to get my friends and family killed for Ukrainian people. That's not our national interest. Now, I can understand how Coombs comes to this decision. Don't forget, he's a Delaware senator, the same state where Joe Biden is from. I think the recent poll is that he has 33% approval rating. I think the last president had such a low approval rating at this point was Richard Nixon. I could be wrong, but I think it was Richard Nixon. So I don't think he's legitimate in the sense that I think he's looking to provide some type of distraction for the disaster that the Biden administration is in and the disaster of what's going on down in our own southern border, not the Ukrainian border, our own southern border. Let's put troops on the ground down there. And you haven't thought this out, Chris Coons. Think about it. How's this going to play out? We're putting troops in Ukraine in a face-to-face battle with Russia, which probably will end up in a nuclear war. How does that help the Ukrainian people when they now have to live in nuclear radiation? Or their entire country has to be abandoned because it's been nuked. Because one thing you have to understand is that the Russians have medium-range missiles, battlefield missiles. They have a significant amount of battlefield-ready nuclear weapons, which means they're short-range missiles. And they can use them in the Ukrainian theater. And how's that going to play out when the American people find out that we're getting our troops killed by Russian troops who were funded by German money? Because don't forget, Germany is still buying Russian natural gas and oil. And they're funding this war right now. Germany is funding the Russian war. Remember a couple episodes ago, I mentioned that Donald Trump raised this red flag years ago. Kept on telling Germany, why are you buying gas and oil from Germany when you can be buying from the U.S.? So how's that going to play out, Coombs? Well, we've got U.S. troops killed in a war that's being funded by Germany predominantly and Europe. How's that going to play out here? So think about it. Think about it before you're talking. The only conclusion I have is that this is a distraction. This would be a distraction. It would be a favor that Coombs is presenting to Joe Biden to distract from his disaster as a president. And this would be a disaster for this country to put boots on the ground. Now, the other funny thing he talks about how great Biden has been with bringing all these countries together against Ukraine. Really? Who? Germany is buying oil. A lot of the EU isn't on board with these sanctions. Apparently, the sanctions haven't hurt to the point where Russia has to stop the war. And we know the only way for Russia to stop the war is for Germany to not buy natural gas or oil from Russia. That likely would stop the war. But Germany's not going to do that. It'll put their country in a recession or worse. So don't tell me you want troops on the ground, American troops on the ground, when Germany's funding this war. India is in bed with Russia. China is in bed with Russia. So don't tell me he has unified the world against Russia, because you haven't. And these sanctions do not seem to be working. Now, it's funny, I looked at Wikipedia regarding Coombs, and I'm not surprised he's just throwing it out there, because to people like Coombs, you and I are nothing but a tool to get his way and to help him personally and politically. Because you look at his bio, and I'm sure this Wikipedia bio was written by his staff. He was born in Greenwich, Connecticut, and then moved later to some wealthy area of Delaware. Now, there's one item in here that I find funny, is that it said that in one of the sentences in his bio in Wikipedia, it says that, his family struggled when his parents divorced. Let me tell you, no one in Greenwich, Connecticut struggles financially. No one. Now, Greenwich, Connecticut is one of the wealthiest areas of the country. So I don't want to hear this, that his family struggled. You know what struggling is in Greenwich, Connecticut? Being late on your country club fee. That's a struggle. He has no concept of what struggling is. How people that have people in Newark, New Jersey know what struggling is all about. People in Jersey City, New Jersey, they know what struggling is. Guy that got laid off from his factory because the jobs went to China. Those are the people that know what struggling is. The people that live paycheck to paycheck and don't have millions of dollars in assets. So I'm not surprised that Coombs is coming out with this. Because, hey, yeah, let's go to war. So long as it's these people, not us, the MAGA people, the unwashed people. But guys like Coombs, he don't care about you. So all I can ask is that if you can contact your senators and your congresspeople, just to ask them where they stand on putting troops on the ground. And the same thing has to do with the primaries. You ask every candidate where they stand on putting troops on the ground in Ukraine. Because it's important. This has to be put to bed right now. And if there has to be a national debate over this, let's have it. Because we're on the winning side. I am not going to let some knucklehead that grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, vote to send people I know to war in Ukraine to get nuked. Okay, before we move on, the last thing I want to say about Coombs is that Did you notice his comment about his reference to Easter? He said he referenced it as the best of human spirit. Now, I think that's a little tone deaf because I think Easter and what Easter represents and what actually happened 2,000 years ago is much greater than simply the best of the human spirit. Easter transcends this. And it's just tone deaf, Senator, to say this. But again, I'm not surprised because, I just think you're out of touch. You're out of touch with the American people. You're out of touch with Easter. And quite frankly, whatever you say really shouldn't have weight on most of the American people. Because for me, quite frankly, I just see right through you. And I think most Americans do also. Now, what I've been saying all along is someone has to put their arm around Zelensky and say, hey, negotiate something. You're getting your people killed. You misread Russia early on when you thought they weren't going to cross the border. You misread the West, thinking that you were going to be able to join NATO or the EU, or they would come into your defense. You misread all that, and you're getting your people killed. And listen to this. Noam Chomsky, the famous professor of the left. Now, Noam Chomsky is a radical left professor. He's a linguist. And essentially what his premise is, his whole career, is that if you control the language, you can control society. It's not just controlling what language is spoken. It's controlling the words in the language that is spoken. And again, the left has continued to try to attempt to change the definition of many of our words, and they use Chomsky as a playbook. So listen to what Chomsky recently came out and said. He said that Ukraine should negotiate, even though they will lose territory, lose a number of other things, but they should negotiate. Because what he said, and he hits it right on the head, he says the United States policy is wrong. And the United States policy, as he phrased it, is that we're willing to extend this war until every Ukrainian is dead. And he has a point. And Zelensky should listen to this also. And I know he's getting attacked by the left, Chomsky, not Zelensky, because the radical left wants a war, wants this to continue. So we shall see. Okay, let's switch to J6 prisoner Jake Lang. I'll give you an update on Jake. In episode 8, I had an exclusive interview with Jake's father, Ned. And if you get a chance, listen to it. It's episode 8. But I just wanted to give you an update on Jake, just to show you the cruelty of this government. And let me just read you a quick article. I think it's from the Gateway Pundit. Well, let me just read the article. And it says, Jake Lang has not had a visit from his family for 15 months now. Jake has been in prison and treated horribly, beaten by guards, without any visits from his family. Last week, Jake celebrated a birthday, his 27th birthday in prison. Jake's family was all coming to see him. His sister from college, his father, his mother flew in from Florida to visit him in the Lewisburg, Pennsylvania facility where he was being held. But right before his birthday, the federal government removed Jake from the facility and moved him to the William Tisdale detention facility in Virginia. Jake is now being held in Virginia. It says Jake told us today his trial in court is not scheduled until January 2023. Jake will serve 2 full years in prison before he even sits before a trial of his peers, if he's lucky. Jake told the Gateway Pundit today in a call from prison, the federal government won't let political prisoners get hugs. This evil must stop. Now, this is your federal government at work. Now, if you get a chance, go back to episode 8. Listen to this kid, Jake, did some heroic things during January 6th. He tried to save a woman's life and saved another person's life that were getting crushed by the crowd. But I just want to parlay Jake's ordeal into the treatment of Donald Trump by Letitia James, the Attorney General from the state of New York. Now, Jake is being persecuted on the federal level, but Trump here is being persecuted on the state level. But the common denominator is the people that are in charge of the federal government and in the New York state government that are extreme left, that are communists, that will use their positions to get whatever they want, whether it's fair or not, or legal or not. And let me just go to a clip of Letitia James and what she has said against Donald Trump. And then we'll come back and discuss for a minute or two.
He built his wealth off the backs of New Yorkers. We need to focus on Donald Trump and his abuses. We need to follow his money.
Again, going after Donald Trump as illegitimate governor.
Running for Attorney General because I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president when our fundamental rights are at stake. We must do our job to ensure that the man currently occupying the Oval Office is held accountable to any and everything he has done.
Can New York please take this person's legal license away? Listen to her. This was all during her campaign. I'm going to get Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a crook. I'll find something if you vote me in. And that's the mentality of the far left today. And they're in Washington, they're in New York State, they're in California. They're not Americans. They're communists. They're Bolsheviks. And after all this, and thank God she's got no talent other than ability to run for office. Thank God she has no talent. Because you know what this investigation is going to come down to? The valuation of Trump's properties, which is absolutely absurd. One is, why is the state attorney general's office even investigating this? Under normal circumstances, there's never been an investigation like this. And two, they're incapable of determining what the valuation is of Trump's property. They have absolutely no idea that exchange rates affect your assets, markets affect your assets. They don't understand that. They're incapable of doing that. But it's all about getting Trump, and it's all about trying to find something on Donald Trump. And these are the people that we have in charge right now, Bolsheviks. Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime. And it's dangerous. And this is why I like Trump. And let me just read a statement from Donald Trump that was issued on Easter. And let me just read it. And it says here, 45th President of the United States of America. Happy Easter to failed gubernatorial candidate and racist Attorney General Letitia James. May she remain healthy despite the fact that she will continue to drive businesses out of New York, while at the same time keeping crime, death, and destruction in New York. Look, you gotta like Trump. He exactly knows what this is, and he's fighting back. And he's fighting back hard. And this is what we want from Trump. And this is why he got elected, because he fights back and he doesn't give up. In a world where Bolsheviks are dominating the opposition party and are in power right now, we need somebody like that. But the good thing, remember, their days are numbered. Come November, their days are numbered. And again, this is why I have always said that it's an extremely dangerous time for our country right now, between now and the November midterm elections. These people are so desperate that they will do anything to keep themselves in power. Okay, let's switch to John Durham for a few moments. Apparently last Friday that there was a court proceeding in the trial of Mr. Sussman that's been indicted by Durham. And what happens during this process is that both the defendant and the prosecutor, they go back and forth, and I think it's the discovery period. And what they do is they try to throw out or question whether certain evidence will be allowed in the trial. So this is what they're doing right now. And apparently during one of these proceedings, which I guess happened on Friday, it came out that the CIA was provided with the information from Sussman. Now, remember who Sussman was. Sussman was working for the Clinton campaign. And what he was doing, he was shopping this information to the CIA, the FBI, Department of Justice, whoever would hear it and run with it, which is a sleazy thing. But Sussman got himself in trouble because he had lied to the FBI, saying that he wasn't working for anyone. He just gave this information out to be a good citizen. Yeah, right. Sure. What got him indicted is that he was actually working for the Clinton campaign. So anyway, his trial's upcoming, and so the defense and Durham are going back and forth. But one of the things that came out on Friday is that apparently Sussman shopped this information to the CIA, and the CIA looked at it and they essentially determined it was fake. Now they used their own words, but it was fake. And I think the FBI had also determined that it was questionable information. Which leads us into an entirely new realm, but that's down the road. We shall see if that goes anywhere. I want to know if the CIA knew this information was fake. What did they do? And did they sit on this information, knowing what Sussman gave them was fake, with the intent of hurting Trump, who was president of the United States? Well, again, we shall see. It's going to be really interesting. I hope they televise or give a synopsis every day of this trial that's coming up. I think we're going to glean a lot of where Durham may be going after this. But at the same time, we may see a plea bargain, or we may see him cut a deal with Durham to go after other people. Don't know. We shall see. All right, let's switch to Elon Musk and his enduring battle against the board at Twitter. So apparently Musk has some options. As I explained to you last week, that the board is taking the poison pill strategy to prevent Musk from taking the company at this point. And what they're doing in this case, their poison pill is saying that if any one stockholder owns over 15% of the company, will issue a number of stocks and sell a number of stocks that will dilute Musk's share of the company. So right now it's a little over 9%. If the poison pill takes place, they'll issue new stock and the percentage that Musk has gets reduced. Now, what Musk is contemplating right now is a tender offer. So essentially what a tender offer is he will ask all of the people that own Twitter stock if they're willing to sell it to him. Now, procedurally, it's a big procedure. You have to post your intent to tender in one of the finance newspapers, and you list the price that you're willing to buy it at. You'll list the time frame of when you can sell the stocks to Elon, and then you can make sure that it's only confirmed, or the deal will only be done if he can accumulate over 50% of the company in stocks. So if he does the tender and he only gets 49% or 40% of Twitter stock, the deal's off. He has to be able to get a controlling amount of Twitter stock. So that's his option. And then what he can do is he can essentially go to the board and say, hey, look, these people are going to sell this to me. And you're either going to sell it to me, the company, or all these people that are aligned with me to sell me their stock, they're going to vote you out at the next election. Because don't forget, the stockholders control the board, who's on the board, and the board then in turn controls management. And that puts the board in a precarious situation. So if I come in and I'm Elon Musk and say, yep, I've got a tender offer here, say I will now own 55% of the company, and these people are on board with me, and they will vote you out at the next election if you do not let this tender go through. So it's a precarious situation for the board. At that point, they can only delay the inevitable or try to cut some kind of deal in the interim. Now, the other thing can do is, I'm not quite sure if this is a tender offer, but what he can do is he can join with three other large stockholders or potential stockholders to buy 15% each, and then take over the board at when the next vote is. Like, for example, the poison pill kicks in after 15%. So he can get three other large investors that each buy 15%. As long as they're all on the same page and they all want to take it private, they can come in, each buy 15% of the company. That'll take them over a majority threshold of stock owners, but under the threshold that the poison pill would be executed on. And then vote the board out at the next time they pick the board. So that's the options. And it was funny that, you know, Musk has a lot of Trump in him in the sense that he's irreverent. And he came out with a tweet today, and the tweet says an Elvis Presley song, Love Me Tender, with some music notes around it. And I thought it was kind of interesting, kind of cute. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting over the next few weeks. We shall see. You know, I just don't know if the board is strong enough to take on Elon Musk. Now, Jack Dorsey, the founder of the company, who's on the board too, he's already said some critical things of the board. And Elon also makes the note is if you take Jack Dorsey out of the equation, the sitting board of directors owns very little Twitter stock. Look, I still think Musk has a lot of leverage. And I think if he wants to, he'll get this company. Okay, let's switch to business. And the price of corn hit a high today. And let's just see what we have here. It says the contract for July corn futures was trading above $8 per bushel on Monday, the highest level since September 2012. And think about it. I think it was last week at some point, Joe Biden says in an effort to reduce gas prices, he's going to extend the use of E15 gasoline for the summer months. Now, what E15 is, it's a mix of ethanol and gasoline. And E15 means it's 15% ethanol and the rest gasoline. Now, usually they run on E10, but I think in the Midwest, they use E15 usually anytime except in the summer months. And apparently what happens is that E15 isn't used in the summer months because it causes smog or something like that. But what Biden did is allow E15 to be used in the summer months. Now, ethanol is created by corn. And this is where I'm not sure if Biden gets it. So Biden is trying to reduce the price of gasoline. So what he does is he allows E15 to be used in the summer months. And now you're increasing the demand for corn in those summer months, thus increasing the price of corn. Now you add this to the fact that everyone's saying because of the war in Ukraine, there will be a grain shortage. Now I think they grow a lot of wheat and barley out in Ukraine, not corn, but corn could be used as a substitute. So again, I don't understand what's going on in the Biden administration's mind, because in your attempt to reduce gas prices, you're just increasing demand for corn. Now, there's two types of corn. Type 1 corn is the kind that you get at the store and eat, and Type 2 corn is used like for feed, and they used it in cereal. But it can be consumed by humans. And it just boggles my mind how this Biden administration doesn't think things through. Because you have to understand, they're all about politics, and they're all about pulling the wool over your eyes. And they don't realize the American people see through this game. They've had enough of this game. But anyway, with that said, let's go to the markets. The Dow was down today. It was down 0.11% to 34,411.69. Year to date, the Dow is down 5.3%. The S&P was down 0.02% to 4,391.69. For the year, the S&P is down 7.86%. The NASDAQ was down today 0.14% to 13,332.36. For the year, the NASDAQ is down 14.78%. The 10-year bond was up about 4 basis points to 2.851%. Spot gold was up 0.01% to $1,976.56 per ounce. Spot silver was up 0.5% to $25.80 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading right now. It's April 18th in the evening. Bitcoin is trading at 40,858.30. Ethereum is trading at $3,059.60. And XRP is trading at 77 cents. Now, if you remember last week, the theme of last week was the economic data that was coming in that was going to drive the markets. And it was inflationary data that came in to drive the markets. And as I've always been saying, that it will take the earnings from companies to help keep the stock market at least to tread water. So this week's theme is going to be earnings. We've got a lot of earnings coming out this week, and if they're good earnings, they'll keep stocks head above water. If not, it'll be another down week. Because you have to understand all the macro winds are against the stock market. And it's only these individual stocks that can help people make money. So anyway, on Tuesday, we have Johnson & Johnson, we have Netflix, we have Lockheed Martin, IBM, Halliburton, Commerce Bank, Silvergate Capital. And again, these are just a short list of stocks that are showing their earnings. On Wednesday, we have Tesla, we have CSX, we have Abbott Labs, P&G, and Alcoa. On Thursday, we've got Philip Morris, AT&T, Blackstone, Tractor Supply, Alaska Air, American Airlines. And then on Friday, we have Verizon, American Express, and Gentex Corp. Okay, let's take a quick look at the economic calendar. On Tuesday, April 19th, we have building permits. We have housing starts. We have a 1.82 million estimate on building permits and a 1.73 estimate on housing starts. On Wednesday, we've got existing home sales. We've got a 5.75 million estimate. And then on Thursday, we've got initial jobless claims, continuing jobless claims, leading economic indicators. And then on Friday, we have the S&P Global U.S. Manufacturing PMI and the S&P Global U.S. Services PMI. So it's a relatively light calendar for our economic indicators. And with that said, thank you very much for listening. You have a good week, and I will see you on Saturday.